welcome to Palace Fan TV. I'm Jim Daly, and this is Jim and Jay's final say for the Leicester City game. I've just got back from Leicester. Bit of a long journey. Traffic was terrible. I'm absolutely frozen. It was so cold up there, and I've just come back via Victoria, where I got a very nice falafel, which was probably the highlight of the day. Because Palace lost 1-0. Jamie Vardy got the goal, and it was well, it wasn't a terrible performance from Palace. If we're going to use a cliche, and I think we all know how much I love a cliche, it was a game of two halves, really, because Palace were very poor in the first half, very much second best. But after the break, turned it around. The main problem, really, in the first half, and to be honest, for most of the game, was Palace's lack of cutting edge up front. Fraser Campbell, I think, was probably most people's first choice today, and that's forced into that situation by the fact that no one else is available, because he works hard and he runs around a lot. But he didn't really even do that today, and he hasn't quite got the quality to hold it up. So the main problem was it was going up to Campbell and it was always coming back. It was never really being held up. None of the other attacking midfielders were being brought into play. And so Palace were constantly on the back foot, constantly under pressure. The defence had a lot of high balls to deal with, because every time it went to Campbell or Sacco, who sometimes roamed into that roll up top, it would come straight back again. And it meant Leicester were able to break at pace quite often. And in the first half, they did it quite a lot. And I was actually genuinely surprised that we got to 0-0 at half time, because I did think the likes of Mahrez and Vardy would punish us, but they didn't. And to be fact, and this has happened all season, even when Palace are the second best team, still clear-cut chances for the opposition are limited. And in fact, at the moment, clear-cut chances for anyone, because Palace aren't creating any, and the other teams, we're limiting them to sort of pot shots from goal. So actually, clear-cut chances for everyone are kind of limited at the moment. I think Leicester hit the post in the first half with a weird shot that Hennessy sort of thought was going wide, and then it hit the post, and he was saved a little bit by that. But other than that, it was sort of pot shots from distance, really. But Palace were very much the second best team and really offered nothing going forward in the first half. And this is something we talked about in the summer. Palace needed another striker. Wickham came in, obviously, but with his injury, it really exposed the fact that actually, in terms of depth and options up front, we're really limited. And there isn't really that cohesion. Last season when Murray was having that great run, he was clicking with Balassi, clicking with Wilf, clicking with Punch. No one's clicking up top right now, and it just means that we look very blunt going forward. Second half, Palace came out and actually played a lot better, held on to the ball more. Made Leicester work for the ball rather than just giving it away, and it meant we had sort of more sustained periods of possession. And we looked like we were sort of getting into the game more. Then Leicester scored against the run of play, I would say, but it came from a mistake from Hangeland, who gave the ball away and then was out of position and couldn't get back. It was a nice finish from Vardy, but that was really, I can't remember them having many other clear-cut chances apart from that. So that was really frustrating, because I thought Palace were just starting to get back into the game then. But our system, relies on the man up top having a good game, and the wingers as well. And today, it was Punch on one side and Balassi on the other. They were kind of quiet, as was Sacco in the middle. Wasn't really clicking. When that happens, our whole system starts to break down. Wilf looked good when he came on. Perfect game for him to come on, really, with that sort of slippery surface. Did really well. Should have had a penalty. And in fact, Palace probably should have had 3 penalties, if we're being totally, well, maybe if we're being highly critical. The one on Wilf looked like a penalty from during the game when I watched it. I've seen it back on replay. He does look for it, but there's definitely contact. And, laws of the game would say that's probably a penalty. He got booked by the referee. I thought the ref was terrible. I think it was Mike Dean today, wasn't it? I thought it was poor. He let so much go. He let Leicester be really physical. And you could see at one point it nearly boiled over. Palace players were not happy. You saw Cabaye snap into a few tackles in retaliation, and you thought he's not happy because Dean was letting a lot of things go and letting the Leicester players get away with a lot. Took a while to get yellow cards out for Leicester, but then booking Wilf for that dive, I think really frustrated Palace. But we could have had a couple of other penalties. Bamford in the area got taken out from behind. Haven't seen that one again, but in real time looked like a penalty. And then there was a handball, which I haven't seen again either, but the sort of bounced onto the defender's arm. His arms were up. Could that have been a penalty? I think Palace were unlucky not to get at least one of those penalties today. Did they deserve a point? Possibly. If we got one of those pens and converted it, wouldn't have been a vintage performance by any stretch of imagination. But again, this Palace team, they're never totally out of games, even when they're under pressure for sustained periods. they still find a way to get back into games. And I think that is the merit of this current squad. But our main problem is we're lacking cutting edge up top. We really do struggle. We need Wickham back. We need him back so badly. Someone to hold the ball up, bring other players into play, and just give us a bit more presence up top. But if we add that into the current squad, the rest of the team's not playing too badly. Kelly and Mariappa weren't terrible today. Struggled a little bit against the wingers sometimes, but it wasn't a terrible performance. But frustrating day, I think. Again, another one, adding to last week against West Ham. But this is Palace. They'll find a way to turn it around, and we'll be all right this season. We're not going to go down. Touch wood. Anyway, that's my analysis. Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. Comment below with your thoughts on the game. Who was Palace's best player? I would say probably Scott Dan today. I think had a good game. Yeah, did very well to Scott Dan today. Anyway, follow us on Instagram, on Snapchat. I was Snapchatting today during the game, which is a lot of fun, and hopefully people are enjoying those. We'll be doing that for away games this season. And that's it. Here's Jay from the Eagles Beak with his thoughts on the game, and see you again soon.
Hi guys, welcome back to Palace Fan TV. This is the latest of Jim and Jay's final say, and we're looking back at the Leicester City game at the King Power yesterday. Not the greatest result in the world, we'll see, but it's fine lines, isn't it? Again, losing 1-0 away from home to a Leicester City side who are in excellent form this season, pretty similar to the way we started the season. They're continuing it, and Jamie Vardy continues to impress, just like Leicester do. I do wonder whether, if he wasn't playing for them, whether they would be perhaps a threat, as much as a threat as they have been. But it was a narrow win for them, and I think, on the balance of play, yes, you could argue that they deserve the win, but it's a game where we came out with more possession in the statistics. Not the statistics mean an awful lot, but it's not many games that we come out winning a possession as the game goes on. I think we really pushed them hard towards the end. Pardew, went for the, went to try and get the draw, get something out of the game really towards the end, which is good to see. And we put them under some real pressure in that last 10-15 minutes. Just a shame we couldn't adopt the same kind of pressure earlier in the game perhaps. And the goal. A terrible mistake by Hangeland. I've been singing Hangeland's praises for weeks. He wasn't that great against West Ham last week, and he made a mistake yesterday, which in the Premier League, one mistake, one goal often means a defeat. And it's such, like I mentioned, such fine lines. It really is, and we can't afford to be making such mistakes in those areas. Could Hennessy have done better? I've seen a lot on social media suggesting that he could have done, but I think he was kind of in no man's land. Vardy knocked it over him. Scott Dan couldn't do anything else. It was just, I think it was Mahrez. I mean, Hangeland made the mistake, and Mahrez's first touch was to knock it straight forward to Vardy, which was a great knock, to be fair. But we started, without our first choice fullbacks. Kelly played. I think Kelly moved over to left back yesterday. Mariappa came in because Papa Suarez got a knock in training. Bakary Sako came in instead of Zaha, which I think was a good move. Controversial perhaps, but I think Sako away from home, he's got a real good eye for goal. When he shoots, he's often on target, as he did in the game yesterday. He had a great shot which was saved by Schmeichel. I think we need that away from home, somebody who has an eye for goal, particularly when we're struggling up front. And obviously up front was Fraser Campbell. Now, I like Fraser Campbell. I mentioned yesterday on social media that he's one of those guys that, one of those guys at school who comes and plays football, tries really hard. You want him to do well, but he just doesn't come off. But the level we're at now, I think we're finding that, some of these players just, we're stuck with some of the players that have been bought over the past couple of years. And I think Fraser Campbell is one of those. Not that we have much other choice. We're missing Wickham big time. I think when Wickham's played in the formation that we have, he's been excellent and he's given us what we need in that formation. But I think we're short. With Shamak injured as well, who's going to come back. And for me, I can't wait to see Shamak playing on the same pitch as Kabay. I'm really hoping that when Shamak comes back, they will have a connection on the pitch. Both skillful players, and hopefully Kabay could lay on some goals for Shamak when he comes back. But Wickham, we're missing him big time. The striker position, we're not really threatening up front. Obviously Gal got sent off last week, so it compounds matters. It really does. But we could have had some decisions yesterday. You know, it happens in football. You get some decisions in some games and you don't in others. And yesterday was one of those games where we could arguably had, a couple of penalties. I mean, one on Zaha is booked for diving. For me, he did exaggerate going over. However, the defender left his leg out and took it away as Zaha went past. So, a lot of the pundits are saying, it could have been a penalty. Perhaps if Zaha hadn't exaggerated the fall, which a lot of players do. We've had it done against us. Hazard the end of last season. That was a weak penalty to concede in a very similar situation. Actually, two players closed him down in the area, and he goes over like he did, just like Zaha did. Attacking players will, if there's any contact, will go down in the area. That's what happens. Another challenge on Bamford, who came on, looked relatively bright actually when he came on, run hard. Got involved, got in good positions, just didn't have the final ball put to him. But he could have had a penalty by the same defender actually for Leicester. And I think the most blatant one of all was a handball in the area, right in injury time. Ball comes up to him, goes to kick it, as you've already seen. It comes up and hits him on the hand. That's a penalty all day long. We've had decisions already this season in our favour, and yesterday didn't go against us. We can't harp on about refereeing decisions. Hangeland made a mistake yesterday in defence. Referee made a mistake by maybe not giving a penalty. So swings and roundabouts, I guess. It happens. We can't win every game. That old cliche. Disappointed with the loss, but we were in the game right to the end. As I mentioned, really fine lines in the Premier League, and we can't afford to make the mistakes. And I think at the moment, I would say we need to make a few changes for the next game. Whether Pardew sees it in the same vein, whether Wickham's going to be fit, whether Shamat's going to be fit, whether Joe Ward's going to be fit. For me, I would perhaps move Kabay a little bit forward, bring Jednak in or Daly, in midfield alongside MacArthur. Kind of help out the midfield a little bit and kind of build from the back. Protect the back line a little bit more. Maybe Delaney in for Hangland. We've got a squad of players who, majority of which I like for like. Otherwise, Kabay, we don't have another Kabay on the bench. But I think that's what we need to look for the United game. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, disappointing loss, but not too unhappy. We're 6th in the table, could drop a couple of places after the games on Sunday. But yeah, we move on to United at home next week. Big game, a big challenge to face United at home. Even though they weren't that great last season, they are looking a bit more of a threat this season. So it should be an interesting game. If we need to be on our game as we have been in earlier on in the season, really, and try and find that form that we had back then. But 6th in the table at this stage in the season, it could have been better, but it could have been worse. So relatively happy. Thanks for watching. This is Jim and Jay's Final Say. By all means, subscribe to the videos below. Leave your comments, questions, comments on the game, questions for us, and we'll be back next week to talk about a United game and hopefully a little bit happier news. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.